Comments of Santia Veda Peruna Circle 1. Santia 1 Circle 1 full. Santias of Veda Peruna indeed consist of 9 circles. Each circle narrates one of the 9 days when the peoples of the great race conversed with God Perun in Iridian Asgard. Asgard, Iridian, city of gods on the river Irid, as a god living on earth. Gard, city. It was built in the summer of 5028 from the Great Migration from Daria. 104778 BC. Currently, a modern city of Omsk is located there. Also situated at the confluence of the Om and Irtysh rivers. The ancient Slavic name Irid. Iridian Asgard was destroyed by the Dzungars in the summer of 7038 from the creation of the world, 1530 AD. And 130 years later, Russian historian cartographer Semyon Remezov, while creating maps of Siberia and visiting the site of the destroyed Asgard, wrote to Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich Romanov that it was necessary to restore the ruined city at the confluence of the Om and Irtysh rivers. He noted the same on the 21st page of his drawing book of Siberia, which was published during Peter the Fence in the summer of 204, 1696. 20 years after the publication of Semyon Remezov's drawing book, Siberia, in the summer of 722-24, 1716, by the order of Emperor Peter the Fur, the Omsk fortress was built at the sea confluence of the Om and Irtysh rivers, which later became the city of Omsk. Ancient history and historical records mention 4 earthly cities that bore the name Asgard. Asgard of Daria was located on the summit of Mount Mira, Meru, in the sacred land of Daria, on the sunken northern continent. Asgard of Iri. It was mentioned above. Asgard of Sogdiana. It was located in Asia Minor. Shcherbakov believes that this is the city of Nissa, in Sogdiana, the only country that gave a worthy resistance to the armies of Alexander the Great. Asgard of the Swedes. It was located in the territory of Scandinavia. After the Great Fire, when Asgard burned down, a new city was built in its place, named Uppsala, Great Sanctuary of Yngli. The Temple of the Primordial Fire. This great temple is mentioned in another sacred tradition, the Saga of the Ynglings, which is preserved in Iceland. Here is what it says. The country in Asia, to the east of Tanakvislia, is called the land of the Aesir, or the dwelling of the Aesir, and the capital of the country was called Asgard. The ruler there was one who was called Odin. There was a large sanctuary. Saga of the Benglings. Text 11. See also the notes. Vaitmana is a flying celestial chariot on which gods and humans traveled between the lands. There were also Vaitmars, large celestial chariots capable of carrying up to 144 Vaitmanas in their womb. In the Ramayana, which is preserved by the people of India, Vaitmanas are called Vimanas. This distortion of the name occurred during the translation from the Hurrian language to Sanskrit. Descriptions of various flying objects called Vimanas are found not only in the Ramayana, but also in the Rig Veda, the 2nd millennium BC, and in other works that have survived from ancient times. In the Rig Veda, the fearsome god Indra raced through the skies in an airship, waging war against demons, destroying cities with his terrible weapon. The flying machines of the ancients were described as surrounded by a powerful cloud, like flames, on a summer night, like a comet in the sky. 4 types of flying machines are named: Rukma Vimana, Sundara Vimana, Tripura Vimana, and Shakuna Vimana. Thus, Rukma Vimana and Sundara Vimana have a conical shape. Rukma Vimana is described as a 3-tiered flying machine with a propeller at the base. On the 2nd floor, there is a cabin for passengers. Sundara Vimana is very similar to Rukma Vimana, but unlike the latter, it has a more streamlined shape. Tripura Vimana is a larger ship, and this machine is multifunctional and can be used for both aerial and underwater journeys. The reports about flying machines in ancient India deserve special mention. In addition to the already mentioned Vimanas, there were probably other aerial chariots, Agnihotras. Judging by the root Agni, fire in this word, the flight of Agnihotra was accompanied by flashes of fire or bursts of flame. Ancient sources claim that there were flying machines for journeys within Surya Mandala and Nakshatra Mandala. What are these boundaries? Surya in Sanskrit and modern Hindi means sun. Mandala, sphere, area, nakshatra, star. Is there no indication here of flights within the solar system and interstellar distances? It seems appropriate to mention the deep conviction of ancient Indians, reflected in myths, that the many existing other worlds and spaces are inhabited by perfect beings. The one God is a kind, a progenitor, an inseparable part of the Creator, whose name is Ramha. The one God is the protector of all clans of the great race and the descendants of the heavenly lineage. God is the protector of the universes of the world of right. God as a lineage is the personification of many gods and ancestors, being both one and multiple at the same time. When Slavs or Aryans speak of all their ancestors, fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and forefathers, they say, "This is my lineage." They turn to him when support from the gods and ancestors is needed, for the gods are the fathers of the Slavs and Aryans, and they are their children. Urai is the land in the Hall of the Eagle on the circle of Svarog. Perun is the thunderer, Svarog's son. Lithuanian Perkunas, Latin Perkun, Sanskrit Purusha, the god protector of the warriors of the great race, the defender of the lands and the lineage of the Holy Rus. Of the Rus, Belarusians, Estonians, Lithuanians, Latvians, Latgalians, Zemgalians, Polans, Czechs, Serbs, and others from the forces of hell, the world of darkness, the thunder god who controls the lightning, son of God, Svarog and Lady Mother, grandson of God, Vishaniya, father of Tark, named the rain god for giving people 9 books of the Vedas. Sanctify the Vedas of the rain god, the god protector of the Hall of the Eagle in the circle of Svarog. These sanctifications tell of the 3rd visit of the god Perun to the land of Midgard. In ancient times, all those who arrived from the heavens, as well as bolides, comets, meteorites, and meteors, were called Svarozhichs, immortal, that is, eternal. The prefix bez indicates the absence of something, while bez indicates the presence of dark forces. Without death, this is eternity. Without death, this is a harbinger of death. This is important, as there were no divisions into words in the text before. Legi are the messengers of the gods, conveying the will and advice of the bright gods to the people of the great race. In Christianity, fallen Legi are called angels, and children were named in honor of the messengers of the gods. For example, the male name Oleg, modern Oleg, grandson of Lega, and the female name O, Lego, the modern Olga, granddaughter of Lego, Midgard, an ancient Slavo-Aryan name for the planet Earth. Peklo is a Slavo-Aryan name for the world of darkness, the underworld, where evil giants deceive and lure people from the great race and descendants of the heavenly rod. Scandinavian Jotunheim is the world of giants, located to the east of Midgard. The Christian paradise Eden, or the Jewish homeland of Adam and Eve, Eden, is also located to the east of Midgard. The great ancient wisdom, that is, the secret ancient Vedas, their deep spiritual and soulful meaning, without which it is difficult for a person to find the true path of spiritual and soulful development. Rita, the heavenly laws about the purity of lineage and blood, given to people in ancient times, Observance of the laws of Rita saves nations from degradation, degeneration, and extinction. The saga of the Bengling states that the Esir observed the laws of Rita, while the Vanir violated them and married their sisters, worlds and lands, galactic star systems and their planets. Ramha. Ramha is a Sanskrit Brahma, the one creator, an unknowable essence, radiating life-giving light and the primordial fire of the universe. Ingli, from which all existing universes and inhabited worlds emerged. Truth, the true laws and orders of the world of the rulers, the world of the bright gods. Krivda, the false laws and orders brought from the world of darkness, leading lost people into hell. These laws and orders are the absolutely complete opposite of truth. Volkv, a clergyman, a priest of the oldest, most ancient faith on Midgard. Yngliism, the faith of the forefathers, the keeper of ancient sacred texts. Preserve the wisdom of God, ancient wisdom. This commandment of God Perun indicates that nations must sacredly preserve not only their Vedas, legends and traditions, songs, fairy tales, and epics, but also their ancient culture and heritage of their ancestors. In the waters of Iri, Iri is the ancient name of the Irtysh River. There is a rune Iri, which translates as white pure water. From this semantic meaning, the name of the territory, Belovodie, originated. In the Holy Land, land of the Holy River, that is, in Belovodie, Semirechye, where 7 rivers flow, Ishim, Tobol, Iri, Ob, Yenisei, Angara, Lina. From this holy land, the white peoples settled across the entire Eurasian continent. Sacred traditions of different nations tell of these migrations. To the Blessed Islands, our clans were led by Druids, guided by the gods from Great Scythia. And in Great Scythia, our ancestors came from the mountains overgrown with burdock, from the banks of the sacred river, where the city of the gods stands. Scottish tradition, branch of Amela, text 8. Above evil rises that land where bliss is tasted, elevated by the power of spirit, and therefore it is called the Ascended. This is the road of the golden bowl of the Ascended. It is believed to be in the middle between the east and the west. In this vast northern land there lives no cruel, insensitive, and lawless person. Here lies the constellation of Svati. Here its greatness is remembered. Here, without descending to sacrifice, the great ancestor strengthened Taru. The ancient Indian epic Mahabharata, Journey of Bhagavan, Chapter 110. In the north of the Omsk region, the river Tara and the modern city of Tara still exist, built in the summer of 7102, the year 1594. The ancient city of Tara, mentioned in the Mahabharata, was discovered by archaeologists at the confluence of the Irtysh and Tara rivers in the summer of 7500, the year 1992. According to the chronicle of the ancient Russian English Church of Orthodox Old Believers, Inglings, the Tarian Old Living City was built in the summer of 3502-2006 BC, before the Second Karyan campaign, to Dravidia. Ancient India. Protect your land. The defense of one's native land, one's kin, and one's faith from the attacks of foreign and alien enemies is the primary duty of every man of the great race and every descendant of the heavenly lineage. Protect the kin of the Rasans and the Svyatoruses. This commandment is addressed to the kin of the Karyans and the Daris, who can discern where false information is and where the truth lies. Pagans, that is, non-believers, foreigners. For example, the Book of Veles refers to hostile tribes that speak a different language and worship other, non-Slavic and non-Aryan gods as pagans. Do not persuade those people who do not want to listen to you and heed your words. This commandment tells us we mustn't waste time on those people who are unable to understand the meaning of what you are saying. In Christianity, Jesus formulated this commandment more strictly. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine. Bible, Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 6. Love your neighbor, if he is worthy. This commandment indicates that you should love only those who are worthy, not everyone indiscriminately, as in Christianity, even your enemies. Next are the blood commandments, which are, as you know, indeed, part of the laws of Rita, Santia the Third, Thor the Many-Wise. Slavs and Germanic Scandinavian peoples worshipped the powerful yet kind and cheerful god Thor before Christianization. He was endowed with incredible strength. His weapons were the faithful hammer Mjolnir and an axe. The Sacred Vedas, given to you by my son, Thar the Rain God. The Santia Vedas of the Rain God are a sacred scripture, especially revered in the clan communities of the ancient Russian Church, Stara, Vinga, and Odin. In Scandinavian legends, the elder and younger Edda also mention two brothers of Odin, but different sources name different names. 3 circles of life, that is 432 years. One circle of life on the ancient Slavic Aryan circle of the number of God consists of 144 years, as 16 years of the circle pass through 9 elements. 16 multiplied by 9 equals 144. Far to the south of western Siberia, directly south, are the Himalayas. In Santia they are called Himavat. Skuf, a small Slavic Aryan settlement, usually without a shrine or temple, unlike a Skeet, a Slavic Aryan settlement with a shrine or sanctuary, with a fortified settlement. A fenced area, in the center of which stand the idols of the gods, around the altar, for conducting worship services and making bloodless sacrifices. Himavat, a mountain. Himalaya. Small moon, Fata. The period of orbit around the Earth is 13 days. It was destroyed 13,000 years ago due to the clumsy use of the elemental forces of Midgard Earth. Big moon. A moon with an orbital period of 29.5 days. This slag describes the time when our Earth had 2 moons, the small moon Fata and the big moon. There are also places in the Sans that describe the times when 3 moons shone over the Earth. Suritsa is a drink of the gods, made from honey with the addition of healing herbs and infused under the rays of the sun Yarili. The 3rd cup for people is unnecessary. Since ancient times, there has been a concept called the sense of measure. This expression has survived to this day in several altered forms. The 3rd is extra, or the 3rd is unnecessary, and we apply them not only to the consumption of suritsa. Oak, birch, and ash, these sacred trees, such as these, are still revered in Rus. Each tree, among other things, is personified with ancient bright gods. The oak with the thunder god Perun, the birch with the radiant Lada, the mother of God, and the ash with the generous Tarch, the rain god. From circle to circle. In ancient times, when people lived by the circle of God's number, time was measured not in decades and centuries, but in circles, 16 years, and in circles of life, 144 years. This is related to the fact that a hexadecimal system of counting was in use, rather than a decimal one. After the adoption of the Julian calendar, the expression from circle to circle, i.e., every 144 years, was replaced with the expression from century to century, i.e., every 10 years. Santia of Four. Rodan is the chosen leader of several related clans. The wisdom of knowing the worlds, the wisdom of the world of radiance, the wisdom of life. 3 collections of Santia, ancient Vedic texts given by the bright gods from the world of righteousness. And everyone will answer for their lawlessness. This speaks of 3 judgments over a person after death. The first judgment is the judgment of conscience, when a person bears responsibility for earthly deeds before their conscience. The second judgment is the judgment of ancestors, when a person stands before their ancestors and answers for what they have achieved for the prosperity of their lineage. The third judgment is the divine judgment, when the gods observe what level of spirituality a person has reached during their earthly life, and how they have learned to create for the benefit of their lineage and the heavenly lineage in the world of Yavi. The world of charms and personal illusions. The world of charms and the real world of altered consciousness and distorted perception of reality is a mirror reflection of the world of Yavi, the world of personal illusions. Also called the world of Maya, it represents one of the unreal worlds of dark Navi with a different spatial temporal dimension. The world of Maya is dangerous for people, as it absorbs the radiation of a person's soul and spirit. The world of Maya, evoking unreal colorful images, leads a person away from the real world of Yavi into another consciousness of being, which subsequently drives a person to madness. Just as birds leave nest when their wings grow, so do sacred hymns leave a person when the time comes. This poetic comparison indicates that before narrating the content of the Vedas, a person must comprehend their greatness, depth, and wholeness, not only with their mind and heart, but also with their soul and spirit. And only after the Vedas settle in the human heart, and the soul and spirit perceive them as an integral part of themselves, will the Vedas transform into a sacred hymn, a song of the soul and spirit, born to narrate the great events of the past, present, and future. The Vedas will not save those who do not fulfill their duty to life. The narration of this slag indicates that in addition to spiritual development and the knowledge of ancient wisdom, a person is obliged to fulfill their duty to life. The duty to life encompasses concepts such as prolonging one's lineage, creating for the benefit of one's lineage, protecting one's lineage, and much more, and again follows the path laid out by the great Ramha. The meaningful image of this slag indicates that each person has their own destiny and their own path of spiritual development. How to fulfill one's purpose in life depends on the person themselves and their actions. Freedom of choice presents a person with 2 paths. The spiritual path leads to the pure Svarga, and through Svarga to the world of Prav, and the unspiritual, material path leads through darkness to hell, where one must realize all their deeds and thoughts, and then attempt to follow the spiritual path again through the world of Yavi. The priests of Kapen, Kap, Harian, sacred, sacred, Kapishche, sacred temple, Kapen, clergyman, abbot of the Kapishche. By the commandments of the forefathers, that is, the communal Kop law, created based on the commandments of the bright Slavic Aryan gods and the life experience of our wise ancestors. The 5th Santia, to the heavenly Eyrie, that is the Milky Way. The floor of Svarga is indeed half of the visible sky. The Dari wind is indeed the northern wind blowing from the sacred Darya, the northern continent that existed in ancient times. Marena will cover her with her white cloak for a third of the summer. A snowy winter is certainly predicted for 3 Slavic Aryan and 4 modern months. Marena is the goddess of winter and the mortal peace of nature, the Repesky Mountains, the Ural Mountains, the vast ocean of the Western Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, heavenly power, Vaitmans and Vaitmars, the heavenly chariots of the gods. In that land, the land where the Slavic tribe, the Ants, settled, Subsequently, this land came to be called Antlante, meaning the land of the ants. The ancient Greeks indeed often referred to it as Atlantis. Ni is the god of seas and oceans, the patron of navigation and fishing, the ancestral protector of the Slavic tribe of the ants, whom the ancient Greeks called Atlantis, and the modern Little Russians, Ukrainians, and the land of the ants, Antlanti, the ancient Greek Atlantis, the god protector of the land of Ni, the planet Neptune. The ancient Greeks called him Poseidon, and the Romans Neptune. The lands of people with skin the color of darkness, modern North Africa, where Negroid peoples reside. Endless lands lying to the west of Yarila the Sun, the American continent. 4. The lineage of the great race. It is currently scientifically proven that the first 4 dynasties of pharaohs of ancient Egypt were white people. The ancient Egyptians had a legend about how 9 white gods, who came from the north, created the state of Egypt. In the territory of Dravidia, ancient India, in past times, before the arrival of Aryan tribes, Harijans and Daryans, there lived Negroid peoples, Dravidians and Nagas. The wisdom of the Miroshanians. Subsequently, some wise sayings from the wisdom of the Miroshanians were included in a collection called the Rig Veda, which has been preserved in the territory of India. Black Mother Goddess Kali, Sanskrit Kalima, the Black Mother worshipped by the Negroid peoples of Dravidia, India, Dravidians, and Nagas. Irinirat, to connect, merge, blend, not only on a physical and genetic level, but also on more subtle planes. They can be a wife or a husband, that is, hermaphrodites, whose characteristics changed depending on the phases of the moon. Sexual orientation. On other lands, on other planets. The Great Asa, heavenly battle of gods against the forces of darkness. Legends about this battle of gods have been preserved among almost all the peoples of the earth. The land of man-made mountains, ancient Egypt. The land of pyramids. Santias 6 will undoubtedly certainly create a new faith. It should be remembered that there is an unfathomable abyss between the teachings of Jesus Christ and what modern Christians preach today. The Bible does not even contain the gospel of Jesus Christ. There are only the revised accounts of 2 of Jesus' disciples, the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of John. And 2 narratives were written in later times by the disciples of Judea, Paul, the Gospel of Mark and the Gospel of Luke. And then, such as, the wheel of fate will turn. This prophecy speaks of ancient events that took place more than 13,000 years ago. The clumsy use of the elemental forces of Midgard led to the destruction of the small moon, Fati, whose enormous fragments fell to earth, causing the earth to tilt its axis. For an observer on earth, the Yarilo sun began to pass through other celestial halls of the wheel of Svarog, the zodiac constellations. There were shifts in tectonic plates, which caused powerful earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive tsunamis, the destruction of Antlani, Atlantis, and many other islands. The process of mountain formation, climate change towards cooling, which is noted in the Slavic Aryan calendar as the beginning of the calendar from the Great Cooling. For example, the summer of 13,007 from the Great Cooling corresponds to the years 1998-99 of the Christian era. The priests of the slain wanderer, Christian missionary preachers, who were using the sayings of Jesus Christ to ultimately achieve their own selfish goals. In the times of the first Christians, the Bible as a single sacred scripture did not yet exist. Preachers used various apocryphal gospels. And foreign priests will come to the lands of the great race. This prophecy directly speaks of the Christianization of Europe and Russian lands. And many people will renounce the holy faith of their ancestors. Christian missionary preachers called the peoples of the great race not to come from disbelief to faith, but to renounce their native bright gods and ancestors and accept a foreign god. Such renunciation is called betrayal, and betrayal is the most terrible sin. Moreover, Jesus himself said for whom his teaching is intended, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Bible, Gospel of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 24. The times of blood and fratricide will be brought by foreign priests to the expanses of the lands of the great race. This refers to the use of the ancient principle of divide and conquer. Roman Catholic Christianity was imposed on the Slavic Aryan tribes living in Western Europe. About the Byzantine Christianity, that is, Orthodox true faith, imposed on those living in Eastern Europe and Rus, after which the peoples of the great race were set against each other. For 7 circles of life, the darkness will envelop the lands of the great race. Perhaps this prophecy speaks of the violent Christianization of Russian lands in the year 6496, 988 AD. 7 circles of life make up 1008 years, for 1 circle of life is 144 years. The time of the reign of darkness covered 6496 to 7504, or 1995 and 96 AD. The new year used to be in September, which corresponds to the years 1995 and 96 AD. It is important to remember that the new year was previously celebrated in September, and it was abolished by Tsar Peter the Great. Just in the last year of the reign of darkness, 1995-96, elections took place in Russia. They elected mayors, governors, then the State Duma and the Federation Council, and concluded with the election of the ruler, the president. After the dark night, sooner or later dawn arrives, followed by the bright day taking its rights. Brother will rise against brother, son against father, blood will flow like rivers. It also speaks about the use of the ancient principle divide and conquer, but no longer between nations, rather the unleashing of civil wars within one nation. This is the fulfillment of the biblical instruction, "Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword, for I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be those of his own household." Bible, Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 34-36, verses 34-36. Hunger and spiritual emptiness. Perhaps this prophecy speaks of the seizure of power in Russia by atheist Bolsheviks, their organization of artificial famine in the Volga region, Ukraine, and Belarus in the 1920s, 1930s. The 1930s of the 20th century, systematic destruction of temples, shrines, clergy, and believers, regardless of their faith and denominational affiliation. White Dog. The name of the year according to the God's number cycle. It repeats every 144 years. It is the year 75101, 13001, or 1992-1993 by Christ's birth. Heavenly Phoenix repeats every 144 years. According to the Nativity of Christ, Phoenix. Heavenly. The naming of the year according to the God's number cycle repeats every 144 years. In our time, it corresponds to the years 7478, 1978, or 1969-1970, according to the Nativity of Christ, 28-12-1978, or the years 1969-1970, according to the Nativity of Christ. And they will gain influence over minds. Currently, influence on people's minds is exerted through mass media, cinema, radio, television, newspapers, magazines, and global computer networks. Fash, the destroyer. Plasma, nuclear, or thermonuclear weapons. For example, in the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata, a certain superweapon is mentioned, reminiscent of the Fash destroyer in effect, the use of which creates an explosion, bright as 10,000 suns at zenith. Its use is truly terrible in its consequences and leads to the destruction of all living things. It is enough to compare the picture of nuclear tests with this excerpt about thousands of suns. Of course, after becoming acquainted with the Mahabharata and the Anti-Yami Veda Purana, an analogy arises between the episodes described in it and the explosions of nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, 1945. The superweapon described in the Indian epic Mahabharata has several names, and all its varieties possess truly unimaginable destructive power. They can burn this entire transient world. Fire mushrooms, nuclear or thermonuclear explosions. The seventh, Santia. Ancient wisdom will become incomprehensible to many human children. The misunderstanding of ancient wisdom by people is mainly related to the change of alphabets, written and spoken languages, the attribution of new images and meanings to old words, the distortion of ancient truth for the sake of momentary benefits, the destruction of native words, and their replacement with foreign ones, etc., and so on. World Bright Soul of Jiva, Jiva, Maiden Jiva, Goddess of bright human souls, Patroness of the great race and descendants of the heavenly line. Sacred Summer. According to the cycle of the number of God, every 16th summer in the circle of life is sacred. God Vishen, the patron god of our universe in the world of Navi, Paik, father of god Svarog, the patron god of the hall of Finist in the Svarog circle. Mother Lada, Mother Sva, Heavenly Mother Godmother, Mother of the majority of the gods of the great race, Godmother Patroness of Great Rosenia, Slavic Aryan territories, and the Hall of the Moose in the Svarog circle. Heavenly Godmother, Goddess of happy fate, together with the daughters of fortune and misfortune, determines the destinies of people and gods, weaving the threads of fate, Goddess Patroness of weaving and handicrafts, and also the patroness of the Hall of the Swan in the Svarog circle. The Slavic Aryan name for the constellation Ursa Major is Makosh, meaning Mother of the Ladle. God Krishan, the patron god of ancient wisdom, the god overseeing the performance of rituals and celebrations, ensuring that there are no bloody sacrifices. The patron god of the Hall of the Bull in the Svarog circle, circle of years, 16 years. God Svarog, god of the heavenly purity of the world of reality. The patron god of Virya, the Slavic Aryan paradise garden, heavenly Asgard, the city of the gods, and the Hall of the Bear in the Svarog circle. Throughout the Svarog circle, 99 life cycles. The Svarog circle spans 25,920 years. Times. The total time period is 40,176 years, and 99 circles of life, 99 multiplied by 144. 14,156 years. The total time period is 40,176 years. 8th Santia. Freedom of spirit, that is, free spiritual development, according to the teachings of the native bright gods and ancestors. Not foreign teachings, rejecting all colorful, yet still alien paths of development that lead not only to physical, but also to spiritual slavery. There is no one in the world of Yavi living who has surpassed death. This slag states that any form of life in the world of Yavi is subject to the universal laws of the universe, and no matter how much a person tries to deceive themselves and others, and escape the influence of the universal laws of the universe, the laws act and come into effect as soon as their time arrives. For those guilty of blood mixing, hell will open its wide doors. The punishment for incest in the world of Yavi is degradation, degeneration, and the demise of the entire branch of this lineage, and after death, the souls that committed this grave sin end up in hell. The gods will not help him, for he chooses his own path. A person is given the freedom of choice, and the gods only assist a person when they are on the ascending spiritual path. And if a person chooses the unspiritual path of material pleasures, then they are thereby refusing the help of the benevolent gods. Conscience becomes the head of all actions. When conscience becomes the head of all human actions, spiritual development, occurs. Living by conscience, a person is capable of fulfilling all the commandments of the gods and ancestors, no matter how many there are, for conscience is above all. That people will call a foreigner grey and despicable. When translating from the Karyan runes to Russian, it was necessary to use the term grey in this slag instead of the ancient runic word karayena, meaning lacking light in one's soul, because during the Soviet era, the grey were called soulless and shameless people, living off the fruits of others' labor, that is, parasites. To this day, there are expressions like grey personality, grey cardinal, grey mass, etc., introducing their kind to destruction. The influence of modern mass media on people's minds through the transmission of distorted, corrupting, and false information, supported by half-truths, has led to the population of the Russian state ceasing to observe ancient family and blood commandments, losing moral guidelines, and as a consequence of degeneration and extinction, a decrease in the population by 1 million people per year. The first man leaves images of spirit and blood with the daughter. That is, the first man who violated the virginity of a girl is the only father of all the children she will bear in her life, regardless of whether he will live with her afterwards or not, and how many men she may change throughout her life. Santias the Ninth. The stargates, also known as the gates of the interworld, are highly complex energy complexes established in special sacred places where gravitational and space-time spin torsion systems can be used peacefully without harming the surrounding nature. For movement between lands and worlds, movement through time and space implies the presence of at least 2 gates of the interworld, those through which a person enters and those from which he exits, arriving at the desired location. Makosh and Rada Slavic Aryan constellations. Makosh, Ursa Major, Rada, Orion. Obtaining a quarter. An ancient unit of measurement corresponds to 2/16 of a circle. 45 degrees. Heavenly needles. System complexes of interstellar communication and cosmic navigation. Call of the Manifold. Chair. An ancient Slavic Aryan unit of time equal to 72 moments. 1 second equals 248832 moments. Great Asa. The epic and legendary great war of the bright, celestial and divine heavenly gods from the mighty and powerful world of Prav, against the ominous and sinister dark forces that came from hell. The great battle that is, indeed, the great fight, the clash. 7 Sajan. Sajan is the ancient Slavo-Aryan unit of length, equal to 213.36 cm. 7 Sajan make about 15 meters. 1493.52 cm. 7 Sajan make about 15 meters. 1493.52 centimeters. On the nearest moon. This slag tells of the times when 3 moons shone over Midgard, Lelia, Fata, and the moon. Lelia was the closest moon to Earth. Its orbital period around Midgard was only 7 days. Dea, the land of Dea, the destroyed 5th planet of the Yarila sun system. Now the remnants of Dea make up the asteroid belt between the orbits of the Earth of Areia, Mars, and the Earth of Perun, Jupiter. In half part, an ancient Slavic Aryan measure of time. A part equals 6 to 48 shares. Svorozhich, shares. From the ancient Karyan rune Sva, heavens. In ancient times, Svorozhich referred not only to celestial gods, but also to fireballs, bolides, meteorites falling from the sky, as well as ball lightning, Zimun. The celestial cow Zimun, a Slavic Aryan name for a constellation that almost corresponds to the modern constellation of Ursa Minor, as in Slavic Aryan cosmology. Our Yarilo sun is part of the constellation Zimun. Moreover, the North Star in Slavic Aryan cosmology is called Tara,